3 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. A lot to get to on today's program. The SEC and the college baseball world mildly rocked last night, but only mildly. As more information came out, the less surprised we were that Jim Schlossnagle left Texas A&M yesterday for the University of Texas. This just 3 years after leaving Texas Christian University for Texas A&M. I guess he's done. I mean, you figure he'd already gone to Tech or Baylor or Rice or Houston or somewhere else by now. I don't know. Maybe he'll retire like Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and head down to the coast. They got anything on South Padre Island down there that's worth a gig? Anybody know?
Doubt it.
No?
Not banking on that one.
All right. Guess he can just go get a house. He'll be making enough money. That's an interesting question Terry just posed at the end of the halftime show. I still contend Tony Vitello will become the nation's highest paid baseball coach, college baseball coach. But it could be Jim Schlossnagle since he is going to Texas. And the question I have now, too, Elijah Campbell, do you think, listen, clearly all of the logic that we put in, which I think was good logic about Tony Vitello and Texas' pursuit of him. I think it was all good in theory. We now know in reality that was never the case. Literally never the case.
Probably never an option.
No, we basically know that now. That from what's being reported out of the state of Texas today. The Jim Schlossnagle to Texas deal, if you will, and I'm almost going to air quote that word for the purposes of the discussion, was done before the postseason. And yesterday we saw a tweet, and it was just the interesting thing for me, it was just like a fan that was reacting to a reporter's tweet, but went into some decent detail about how close Chris Del Conte, the Texas AD, and Jim Schlossnagle were. And then you, Elijah, went and did some more digging and, found a quote with Schloss calling Del Conte like his best friend. And now we begin to realize that at some point during the year when it wasn't happening for Texas, as they were on their way to, for them, a very disappointing 3 seed, and I get it. I'm not judging. That clearly, hey, Jim, it's Chris. Hey, Chris, what's up? Listen, David, you've seen. Yeah, I've seen. Your team's pretty good. Yeah, we're doing all right. Tell you what, finish it out. And you want to come up to Austin? Yeah, that sounds good. That's pretty much how it went down. You can have an agent and a lawyer work out all the details later. But we pretty much know that's what happened now. So Tony Vitello, Brian O'Connor, the Johnson boys, as we talked about yesterday.
The Johnson trio.
That's Jay and Wes and Skip, right? Skip. Hey, hang on. Yeah, Skip Johnson. I got to go back to my notes yesterday. Oklahoma's coach.
I'm sure that's his full government name.
Sure.
Skip Johnson.
Skippy.
Not a nickname at all. Came out of the womb, that baby is a Skip.
There's an Eddie Murphy skit where he's talking about George Washington Carver, and he talks about how Frederick Skippy Williamson and Frederick Jiff Armstrong stole Dr. Carver's recipe for peanut butter. Eddie Murphy's so good. Sorry. Anyway, y'all go back and find that. That's from like Eddie Murphy's early SNL days.
It's like all of us get stuff.
I think he might have been like 20 years old then, man. Anyway, thank you for that. I appreciate that. None of those dudes were ever an option for Texas. So what I was going to pose to you is, does a Texas A&M make a run at Tony Vitello? I say no. And that's not a job Vitello takes. You can
certainly try.
Yeah, you can pick up the phone. But see, Texas was one thing. Texas A&M is another. And that's not to, it just is. So, I mean, now I think, you and I talked about this yesterday, just briefly. the celebrations around Knoxville are a lot more cheerful. There's no nervousness. There's no pensive, is Tony going to leave?
No pending anxiety.
It's all now just, let's go get some more good players and let's go do it again kind of a thing. But I don't know. I don't know why. And I haven't even seen a list, so I don't know who they're looking at. I told a friend of mine earlier this morning when he called me about this, I was like, I don't know why, but Wes Johnson of Georgia seems like a kind of guy that would be in line for the A&M gig. I don't know why I feel that way. I just do. It's probably not going to be him. Not a prediction on my part. But I feel like you will get someone that's currently in the Southeastern Conference. I
just mark Wes off the list because of the extension he signed today.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't even see that. Good, thank you.
He is in line to coach the Dogs till 2030.
Okay, thank you. Good. When did that happen?
That was earlier today, maybe a couple hours ago. I
just missed that, Dan. I was watching the Euros and on my treadmill, and I guess I just missed that one. Good. All right. Well, there you go. Thanks. That's why you're here.
That's right.
All right. So we will cross Wes off the list.
That's why they pay me in beer.
What's Auburn's coach? Butch Thompson?
An hour ago. One hour ago.
Okay, good. So I was on the treadmill. Good. I feel better now.
Yeah.
Butch Thompson?
Yeah, from Auburn.
Auburn?
Yeah.
He's been to the World Series twice. He'd make a lot of sense. And
would Auburn care enough to try to outduel somebody to keep their baseball coach? Probably not.
They won't. That's just it. No. They won't. They'll make an effort that it'll be a token effort.
Or does the success of the Southeastern Conference in baseball, the rise of the sport, the popularity rise in the sport, and the amount of money being thrown into the sport force them to have to care?
Nah.
They don't want to care.
Not Auburn.
Is it going to force them to have to?
I just don't. The two Alabama schools care about baseball up to a point. That's my belief. And because of where they are and who they are, they will get talent. And like I said, Auburn's been to the World Series twice under Coach Thompson. And when's the last time? I don't even know. This isn't a judgment. Again, I know I say that a lot, but when's the last time Bama's been to the World Series?
It's been a long time.
So they care, but they don't. They're not going to go head, just all in on baseball. They're not going to spend tons of money on baseball because that'll take away. And really, when you think about it, to their credit, the two Alabama schools have poured tons of money relative to their historical precedent into men's basketball. I mean, those two coaches combined, plus, what are they making combined? 10? Maybe more?
I'll double check that.
Well, but around that, is my point.
Discussion, yeah. You could it's around 10.
When they might have used to pay a dude, hey, listen, I mean, you're making $1 million to, all you need to do is blow the whistle a few times a week.
Make sure the kids don't get in trouble.
Yeah, we're really not here for much. Now they are. So, I mean, I could be wrong. To your point, Auburn could, but I just, like I said to you yesterday, Tennessee will get into a little bit of it with a school like Texas if they had to, up to a point. But Texas will always be able to win that battle ultimately over everybody in the conference, save for Texas A&M. And look at what Texas just did. They just stole A&M's coach. All right? They just took him.
Yeah, just took straight up. They knew.
Yeah.
They knew it was going to happen.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, seriously, like it's not even like, oh, ha, ha, ha. It's like, no, that's what they did. So, heck of a story. Again, now we just wait to see who Texas A&M is going to hire, and it needs to happen quickly. Like I say, this team, look, a lot of these dudes were already headed to the draft.
Braden Montgomery's.
Those that are, still college eligible, a couple of them. I mean, look, if the portal closes, in other words, entering the portal has to be done by next Tuesday. So you're inside of a week now. Now, once you're in, you can stay in for a while. Now, let's call it what it is. School starts in like 6 or 7 weeks at most places. Maybe, it's less than 2 months, right? So anyway, y'all see the point. So once you're in, you're in. If I'm the A&M kids that still have eligibility, I'm probably entering the portal if there's no coach in the next day or two, if only because I need to go ahead and get in there. You can always stay.
Oh, most of them have.
Yeah.
Yeah, from today. Jay Slaviolette, Gavin Grahovac, who was the freshman of the year.
Yeah, the freshman.
In the SEC, Caden Kent, Max Kaufer.
So, again, if they like the guy they hire, we'll see. Well, we'll talk more about that. Our good friend Aaron Fitt of D1 Baseball will join Elijah and me coming up in about 20 minutes' time, and we'll have as much time as we possibly can with Aaron to get into that. We also will get Aaron's take. We haven't spoken with him since the Paul Maneri hire a couple of weeks ago, so looking forward to getting his take on what South Carolina has done, how South Carolina's move didn't necessarily affect Texas, but as we have all discussed, Ray Tanner and the Board of Trustees doubled the coaching budget at South Carolina. And obviously that comes with an increased expectation to get this program back to Omaha as quickly as possible. That's the goal here. But Carolina just gets back, as you and I said, kind of into the regular neighborhood now. My hunch is here. Within a matter of days, if not, weeks, if not days, there will be at least 4 coaches in this conference making $2 million plus. Vitello, Corbin's already there. Mm-hmm. Sully's right about there. Vitello and Schloss will certainly be there as well. And who's on the cusp? Jay Johnson? Probably so, right?
And we'll be in line for a raise here pretty soon because of the market adjustment. Don't know what Nick Mingione is currently making. I know he got a nice new deal at UK last year, but all he did was get him to their first World Series. I think he was still under $1 million.
Yeah, I think it was going to escalate up to it because I think you and I did the easy math, and his buyout was the same as what he was owed still, which was around 3, maybe through 27. But I can certainly see a guy like Mitch Barnhart going, well. Because, again, does an A&M...
Because, exactly.
A&M will pay that buyout, man. They'll get a dude to pay the buyout.
They'll get one dude.
Yeah.
They can simply get a dude.
Yeah.
The Buc-ee's CEO.
And they will. They genuinely really will do that. And Nick Mingione could actually, watch out. I don't know. I looking forward to hearing what Aaron might have had to... in terms of gathering intel. I know, again, Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball, based in Texas, has done some digging on a few of the bigger names that could be there. But again, if you've just tuned in, this news now, it feels like, wow, that happened quick, but it didn't. It didn't. And the reason that Jim Schlossnagle, berated that Cub reporter is now known. We'll come back around and talk about that before you get into the other headlines of the day. There is some Gamecock football recruiting news, both good and bad, that we'll touch on. More good news for Cole Messina as well. College football coaching news, not from a job-specific standpoint, but from a what coaches can do standpoint.
Jobs.
Yeah, jobs with a Z. And a little later on, we will discuss the final school year athletic department standings. There's a new number 1 in college athletics overall. And where Carolina and Clemson and others around the conferences stack up. We'll get into all of those things for you. Be a part of it. 803-404-6100 on the phone lines. Firehouse Subs text line. He's Elijah. I'm Jay. This is the Postgame Show. 19 minutes after 3 o'clock, Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you, talking the big news around the SEC and the college baseball world. Jim Schlossnagle, fresh off a runner-up performance with Texas A&M on Monday. Second time in 3 years, man. All that dude does is go to the World Series. That's 7 times in 12 years. It's pretty good.
That is better a rate than his predecessor. Pierce was 3-8.
Yeah. So we got a poll question because again it was kind of ugly. So poll question, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Poll question of the day at 1075 The Game on Twitter: is Jim Schlossnagle's exit from Texas A&M the worst in college sports history? We'll comment for other nominations below. We have 176 votes, and almost 70% of them, 69.9%, say yes. 30.1% say no. Some of our nominations for the worst below. One says yes, but Ed Cooley leaving Providence is a close second. Michael Bauer says Lane Kiffin's exit from Tennessee was pretty bad. It was. F3 Handlebars puts a GIF of Lane Kiffin. And then we have Stormy Haynes saying Bobby Cremins.
Ooh. Well, I mean,
say it's worse.
Yeah, now Bobby Cremins here locally. Listen, that hurt with a capital H-U-R-T. But I wouldn't say it was an exit, really, because, I mean, what happened, he took the gig, and then like 2 or 3 days later, he said, nah, I'm going back to Tech. So it's, look, I mean, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Right? So subjectively, I suppose to gain. Oh, that was tough.
We could put that one in the category of Billy Donovan.
It was tough. Yeah. At least with
UNLV.
Billy, it was an NBA team,
right?
That he went and did it to, right? The Magic. I told the guys earlier, the one that stands out for me that I just really didn't like, and I can't think of all of them. There could be others. But I just hated the way Brian Kelly left Cincinnati for Notre Dame back in, 2010 or whatever it was, when he had Cincy. He got him to the Sugar Bowl. And it was a really big deal. And Notre Dame wanted him, and Jack Swarbrick made him take the job right then. Like, I need you to take the job now and start recruiting now. And it always bothered me, not just from Kelly's standpoint. So I put a lot of the responsibility for how I feel on an AD as well.
Right.
At the new school.
Have some soul.
Because they sit there and they'll look you know, and again, we all know there's a lot of double speak in life. Mm-hmm. But, they'll look you in the eye. Hey, we're here for the welfare of the kids. All right, well, what about these kids that just gave blood, sweat, and tears all season to get to the Sugar Bowl and accomplish something magical for their school and their program?
At that point in time, the biggest game in the history of that program.
And you take their coach and give zero you-know-whats about their feelings because it's all about you. So you don't really – and then Brian Kelly, too, could have said, Jack, I want the job. I do. I want the job. I'm coming to Notre Dame. But I need to see my boys through the game. This is a big deal, Jack.
It's not like this game's being played in May, buddy.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
This game's being played.
And you could and you've seen coaches do both. I know it's hard. But you can be honest with your kid. Listen, these are all adults, young adults, yes, but this is not a little league team. And they all know football. They all know the structure. Mm-hmm. And not one of them is going to go, dang, coach, you want to go to Notre Dame instead of stay here? Like, they'll get it, and they'll respect you.
They'll respect you if you tell them.
Yeah.
And you treat them like men.
But when you just turn your back on them, and you have an AD at the new school that's perfectly fine with you turning your back on them, that was problematic for me.
Yeah.
And again, because of the very specific nature of it, like I said, and for those just tuning in, we are learning more now that this deal between Texas, really between Chris Del Conte and Jim Schlossnagle was likely done as buddies about a month ago, give or take. Yeah. Chris Del Conte being the AD at Texas. They've known each other a long time. They were basically boss and employee at TCU. So they have a long history with each other. And so, like, the way that Schloss kind of berated, like a 25-year-old reporter Monday night. By the way, he did apologize today to that kid.
As he should.
Yeah, I mean.
Because he embarrassed him.
Yeah. And the reason that he embarrassed him is because he himself, basically, he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and he didn't realize he was going to get caught right then.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, again, the people, I'm imagining, without knowing factually, but if you read between the lines, that reporter, the kid, from, and I say kid, that's not fair, but young reporter at texags.com was likely tipped off. Hey, just letting you know, when you go into this thing, Schloss is going to Texas tomorrow. Just letting you know. How you want to ask the question is up to you. But that, a lot of times across the country, not unique to any one school, those fan sites have somebody who may be willing to give them a little nugget that you don't always get at a different kind of outlet. I don't want to compare one to another.
Right.
And I mean, in my career, I've been given good intel. I've been given bad intel. I imagine, the guys at Gamecock Central or Big Spur or, whatever the Clemson ones are called, or anybody else's, or Texags. Sometimes you get good, sometimes you get bad. But in this case, I think enough people probably knew and were then willing to say, all right, and Jim got caught. Now, he never said, I'm leaving or not leaving. He didn't say, because people are like, don't say you're going to. He walked, I said on Twitter, he walked right up to the line.
He did say he took the Texas A&M job without the intention of taking any other job.
Right. It was
very close.
It was craftily worded.
For something so craftily worded, it was so poorly delivered.
Yeah, he said
adequately.
I don't have it in front of me here, but yeah, he basically walked right up to the line and then was able to kind of stand there. So I don't ever think he crossed it, but it came perilously close. But again, it was known for likely about him. He knew for the whole playoff run. I'm not going to be here past this playoff run, which again, in and of itself is fine. All right, we'll stay with this story with our buddy Aaron Fitt. We'll also see what Aaron thinks of South Carolina's hire of Paul Mainieri and what that means for this new, improved, expanded Southeastern Conference baseball landscape. Aaron Fitt, D1 Baseball, coming up on the Postgame Show. Talking the story that rocked the college baseball world over the last couple of days, although I think as we have time to let it sink in, maybe it shouldn't rock us quite as hard as we thought it was going to. We'll get into that and more as we welcome back onto the program our buddy Aaron Fitt, national college baseball writer at D1 Baseball. And I told Aaron via text we needed to get him today because he'll likely go into some form of college baseball hibernation like before the draft, at least for a couple of weeks. How are you, sir? Back home after the run in Omaha?
Yeah. I got back yesterday. Long travel day, made more exciting by the state of affairs in the Lone Star State. But here we are. We survived.
Needed emergency pod in a couple of days here with you guys. You did. I want to tell you all, by the way, and I've sent Aaron a couple of screenshots when I'm on my treadmill watching the D1 podcasts. But they did a fantastic job of keeping us all updated through the run of the playoffs and in Omaha. So good stuff, sir. I wanted to say that publicly. Let's start with what's going on at UT and your colleague Kendall Rogers reporting in some ways. I read between the lines, Aaron. This deal, at least between Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas, and Coach Schlossnagle, may have been wrapped up before the tournament ever began.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. I saw Kendall put that out there. And certainly, this was the worst kept secret in sports for a while. I mean, everyone knew David Pierce was out. That had been done for a while, and everyone had to sit on it, and which is kind of disgusting, frankly, that they at the very least, the Pierce thing we had been done for a week officially, and they held the announcement until the morning of Game 3 of the finals. When the guy that they're targeting is about to play.
Just a coincidence, right, Aaron? Just a coincidence.
What an odd coincidence. That part's just kind of sickening, honestly. It's just really, really just a middle finger to really the entire college sports establishment, not just to the Texas A&M people. And I get why they would want to stick their thumb in the eye of the A&M people, then make it classy. But then of course for Schlossnagle to come out in his press conference after the final game of the College World Series Finals, and act all indignant that someone dared to ask him about this rumor that everyone has been known, has been floating out there for weeks, and for him to act like, how dare you ask me this? That's so selfish of you, and that's a tough look. And to then 16 hours later take the job that he was asked about. I mean, that's tough to swallow.
Yeah. When you look at it now, all right, A&M is open. And they were likely, from what a lot of people said, including Brent Zwerneman of the Houston Chronicle yesterday, they were doing what they could to keep him. That likely meant some form of raise. They're willing to spend, as we all know. So, what kind of coach do you feel A&M goes after now?
I mean, it's bottomless coffers, right? I mean, it's just, incredible resources at their disposal. And that's why, I feel like they probably could have kept Schlossnagle. It was just about the dollars, but he obviously had already made up his mind, and so it didn't come down to that. But yeah, they're going to go big game hunting. I don't know what that means. I mean, obviously we knew they were interested in Bakich, but I think he's already pulled out of that, from what I understand. I think a name like a Brian O'Connor could be in play. We've heard maybe they're kicking the tires on a Link Jarrett or even a Scott Forbes. I mean, I don't know that those guys are going to leave their alma maters. They seem pretty happy where they are, but you never know. I mean, they're gonna really, I think, inquire on a lot of the biggest names that are out there, and I have a feeling they'll make a splash.
Certainly, yeah. I think there's probably going to be a pretty aggressive reaction to this right here. But in terms of surprising coach hires, we had one here. We haven't had John since Paul Mainieri was hired at South Carolina. But do you find that in terms like the surprisement scale, what's a little higher? South Carolina luring Paul Mainieri out of retirement, or Texas stealing their, soon-to-be biggest arch rival again's head coach?
Yeah, I mean, the Mainieri thing was kind of out of left field, really, until we didn't hear that one until late, whereas the Schlossnagle thing, everyone knows the relationship between Schloss and Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas. And, and certainly the last time Texas came open, I think Jim really wanted that job. I think I saw Kirk Bowles report this, and we had heard the same thing at the time. He wanted the Texas job, and he never got a call, So, I mean, this one did not really come out of left field, the Schlossnagle thing, whereas Coach Mainieri coming back was a surprise, and I mean, I got the sense I talked to him at the ABCA convention back in January, and it's great. Always great catching up with Coach Maneri. Wonderful man. Really warm presence about him. And we talked a lot about golf. We went through his entire itinerary of his Ireland golf trip and everything. And he seemed like he was enjoying being retired, but also we did get to a point in conversation where it kind of seemed like he felt like he still had some more left in the tank, and he was kind of missing being on the field. I mean, he loves that stuff. He's a baseball junkie for sure. I thought maybe he'd try to get back in at some point. I don't know, maybe be like a volunteer assistant type role, fourth assistant, if you will, like we've seen Ron Polk do over the years, and some of these other guys like that, Jack Leggett at Clemson. I thought maybe something like that. I didn't know that he was looking to dive right back all the way into the cauldron, as the head coach at a program where there's a lot of pressure and expectations. That's interesting. And I will say this is a guy who had to live in that kind of environment for, a long time at LSU, and he handled it okay. I mean, at the end, I think it kind of ate him up a little bit, and I think it was probably bad for his health, all the stress that he had to deal with there and some of the off-field stuff. But for a long time, he proved that he can handle being in the fishbowl, and so from that respect, it's probably a pretty good fit.
Aaron, on that note, you've got Monty Lee and Terry Rooney, two guys who have long careers as head coaches, in addition to Terry's experiences directly with Paul and obviously Monty's ties to Ray and to the state of South Carolina. So from that last answer you gave about Coach Maneri and where he is today, do you see it as crucial that he has men like Monty and Terry on the staff relative to getting some dudes in their 30s?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you could have gone a lot of different directions here, right? I mean, you could get one of those, young up-and-coming recruiting rock stars, or like a Max Wiener. Everybody's kind of wanted to chase that prototype now, the young pitching coach with the brilliant mind that A&M had this year is now going to Texas. But, I think it makes sense in this case that he's got guys that he's comfortable with, stable guys that can handle a lot of day-to-day stuff. Obviously very respected baseball people, Monty Lee and Terry Rooney. And, they've accomplished a lot in their careers. They've both been head coaches. And, there's a lot to like about that staff, no question about it.
Ray Tanner and the Board of Trustees at South Carolina, Elijah and I have discussed this a few times, with this hire, doubled South Carolina's coaching budget like that. Now we're going to likely see, and I want your opinion on this too, but we're likely going to see at least 4 coaches in this conference next season making north of $2 million. All SEC versus SEC versus SEC 2 years in a row for the title. Is there a way for this conference to continue to get better than it already is? The dollars are one thing, but what does that do to expectation and the sense of reality in the SEC?
It's a great way to phrase that, because you're right. I mean, it's only more competitive every year. Now you're adding Texas and Oklahoma, so it's like it's even more of a meat grinder now. I mean, I guess that means you probably get more spots in the postseason because there's more teams in the league, more good programs. But I mean, the change in the format in Hoover, we'll see how that kind of affects things a little bit when it comes to getting those at-large bids and host spots, because we know that's always a factor. You get to the end of the year and it's how teams do in Hoover. Now you got a new format to contend with. But overall, I just think it's just amazing how much the SEC has separated itself from every other league, including the ACC. And the ACC had 4 teams in Omaha this year. They had a great year. But when it came down to it, the SEC is still the gold standard, and they went 5-0 against those ACC teams in the College World Series, which you can't hide from that if you're the ACC. It's just this is where the balance of power lies right now, and the resources are there. They kind of tell the story, right? I mean, you mentioned all the coaching salaries, certainly all the facility stuff. A&M's getting ready to put another $80 million into their ballpark, and it sounds like Tennessee is going to spend $100 million on their. It's nuts. It's just it's crazy where we're at, but it's just the SEC and then everybody else, and it's not that close.
And I guess since we got you back from Omaha, we might as well ask you about the actual baseball that was played in Omaha over the last week or so. But this Tennessee team caps off one of the best, resume seasons I think we've seen in the sport, with a 60-win year, winning the SEC regular season and tournament title, being a 1 seed to win it, this whole thing for only the second time ever. Where would you, I guess in retrospect, looking at this Tennessee team, kind of place them in history, given that resume?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the 64-team era, which began in 1999. It's kind of the modern era, really, and you can make a case that they've had the best season of any team in that era. Obviously, you mentioned number one national seed. The only other team to do that was '99 Miami. I think the sport's a lot more competitive now, and so to go wire to wire to win the SEC co-championship in the regular season, to win the SEC tournament, and then win it all. Vanderbilt did those things in 2019 as the number two national seed. I think that was a pretty comparable season. But then to also get to that 60-win mark for the first time since 1989, anyone's done that. That just takes it to a different level. And so, it's funny. I don't necessarily think this was Tennessee's most talented team in the last 4 years. I mean, they've had years where they've had much more intimidating pitching, with the Chase Dolanders and the Chase Burnses and, these elite top 5 pick kind of talents on their staff, and they didn't really have that this year. But their pitching, I think they still led the nation in ERA. I mean, it's just amazing what they did, and some pitchability guys that got it done, and the pieces just fit together. And this is the one that wound up, being the best of the bunch. So it's funny how baseball works.
Aaron, great stuff, man. Thank you on short notice with all this stuff going on. And again, you've been so busy. But again, kudos to you and the guys for the work you did all through all you do all the time. We have you on a lot, but great stuff through the postseason. I do appreciate it. Do get some rest. We'll check in soon enough, man. Thanks as always.
Well, thanks for the kind words. Good talking with you guys as always.
All right, man. Aaron Fitt. That's how you follow on Twitter. Aaron Fitt, 2 T's, and D1Baseball.com. They'll likely catch their breath, but then we got the draft and the rest of the portal news. And,
Yeah, my Cincinnati Reds have to get Charlie Condon to fall in their lap.
Yeah. Coach, and let's face it, man. Listen, this is one of those situations. I mean, A&M, as he said, they're going big game hunting, which means there will be a domino effect, at least, for a little while, right?
Oh, they're going to swing big. This is going to go either one of two ways. They're going to make a massive splash within a week, or it's going to be one of those highly publicized whiffs on a lot of candidates. That's embarrassing for the program.
I don't see that, because I think they'll just say, here's the boat and the load of cash. I don't think there'll be any dancing around it. More on this and other headlines of the day as the postgame show rolls on.
I think Mike Tomlin had the best line, right? You know, unless that fairy godmother comes by with that, you know, $250 million check, my wife would want to take a look at it first. I'd have to run it by her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was Brian Kelly just about a week before he left Notre Dame for LSU. Because I guess LSU sent the fairy godmother up. I guess it wasn't 250, but
I didn't know the fairy godmother was an LSU grad.
well, you know, she likes oil and gumbo.
Who doesn't like gumbo, though?
You know,
Spicier the better.
good music.
Tony's seasoning.
So there's all that. Yeah, Tony Satchery's, man. Quality stuff. Quality stuff. Welcome back into the post-game show. Our poll question today, revisit the poll question because it's one of the reasons we decided to play that cut that Tyler got for us.
That's right, because that's a competitor for sure. The poll question of the day at 107.5 The Game on Twitter. You still have 19 hours to vote for this bad boy and let your voice be heard. Is Jim Schlossnagle's exit from Texas A&M the worst in college sports history? Comment other nominations below. 70% of the 187 votes say yes, that it is the worst. 29.9%, so almost 30, say no. And our nominees below: Ed Cooley leaving Providence, Lane Kiffin's exit from Tennessee, and Bobby Cremins.
Yeah, again, my gut took me to Brian Kelly, but not leaving Notre Dame for LSU, but leaving Cincinnati for Notre Dame.
Oh, he had two. Yeah, he had two really bad ones.
Again, the Bobby Cremins one here. Yeah, listen, I vividly remember that, and it hurt. Like I said, that one stung because, you know, we thought maybe it was going to happen once, and Bobby wasn't quite ready then. George Felton came, and then, you know, when it was, all right, now it's time. Now it's time. Now we got him, you know? And really the family just like, Bobby, we don't want to leave Atlanta. We are happy and established, and we don't want to leave. We like it here. And 3 days later, so I get it. Again, that's hard to call. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would have put that in the same category, but I suppose you could. I think you know, maybe some of the poll question response is recency bias too. But this is it is a bad look, because here's the reason now. I think isn't just the question from the, like, play that real quick, and then I want to come back around. Play cut one, please. This was, and let me get the kid's name right. I keep saying kid, and I apologize for that, but he's a lot younger than me. Richard Zane. He's in his mid-20s.
He's old. He's young enough to be your kid. So
Yeah, I mean, my oldest is almost 25, and I think this guy's around that age. But he's doing a fine job for his website, texags.com. But he's the one that asked the question. But here's the Schlossnagle response on the rumors that he was headed to UT.
About your future in Aggie land.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty selfish of you to ask me that question, to be honest with you. But I left my family to be the coach at Texas A&M. I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again, and that hasn't changed in my mind. And that's unfair to talk about something like that. That'd be like you asking Montgomery if he's going to sign in the draft. But I understand you got to ask the question, but I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job, and I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job, and I've given this job every single ounce I can possibly give it. So write that.
Coach, thank you very much.
Yeah, berated the guy, the kid. And as I say, in that response, this is not a defense. I had somebody on Twitter, I think, that thought I was defending Jim Schlossnagle. I'm not here to attack or defend. I'm here to help tell the story, but I am going to throw my opinions in. What he basically said there was, I took the A&M job believing I'd never take another job, and I still feel that way. I take that craftily as that's how I felt then. It doesn't necessarily mean it's how I feel now. It's how I feel about how I felt. And I know that's parsing a statement until it is minced. But that's why I say he walked right up to the line. and then pulled back with but hey, I poured my heart and soul into this job. And to be fair to him, for 3 years, you can certainly say he did. He got them to 2 College World Series in 3 years, and they just played for the title in Game 3.
Did a really good job.
He did a fine job. A fine job. But he, so I'm not defending him, but I don't hear in there, I'm staying at A&M.
There was no denial.
Right.
There was a lot of things were used in the past tense. Like,
right.
I poured my heart and soul into this job, whether he meant to do that or not.
Now, again,
subliminally.
I had somebody hit me on Twitter as well and say, well, I mean, isn't that really just saying the same thing? I'm like, no. Like, what he said as a response would hold up in court if the question were, did he say he was staying?
Mm-hmm. Did he lie?
Yeah, he did.
And only by the tense of some of the verbs he used makes him not lying on paper, but maybe being a little disingenuous.
You might think he's a rat. The NCAA, by the way, just made it legal to rat on your school. I'll tell you how. Be right back. When it comes to medical issues, our bodies, our feelings, guys sometimes like to build a wall around ourselves. Don't know why it is, but that's just the way it is. It's a Bruce Hornsby song, too. But too often, guys won't go to the doctor when they feel off because they think they can tough it out. I'll be fine, just like my granddaddy was. Or because they just don't want to talk about it. You're embarrassed about some of these things. Dr. Dan Bachnight and his staff get it. And they don't want you to be that guy. They want to get you feeling better like you used to feel. And when you go to Dan Bachnight and his team at the men's clinic, you'll sit down with Dan. You'll get a one-on-one consultation and find out where those holes in your life might be, the habits that you have, the daily things that you go and do, the diet that you have, the stress at work. All those things can factor in. 803-875-MENS, and learn more about what Dan and his team can do for you at themensclinicsc.com. 4 o'clock on this Wednesday. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you for being with us. Thanks again to Aaron Fitt of D1 Baseball for joining us in the last half hour. Talking about the big story around the SEC and the college baseball world. Jim Schlossnagle leaving A&M the day after playing for a national title and not headed just anywhere else but to the rival Texas Longhorns, going back to work for his old friend Chris Del Conte, the AD at UT. Aaron telling us the last time the job was open, Schloss wanted it, but that was DeLoss Dodge back then, and old DeLoss decided that Schloss wasn't the guy. He's only over there at TCU. He ain't no good for us.
He's the guy now, and everybody took it very well in Aggie land. Everybody was all happy, and it's happy ever after.
And, again, the news coming out that this has likely been known for about a month. And Elijah and I have told you all this. In our digging around a few weeks ago during South Carolina's baseball search, word got to us that, hey, Texas is going to get rid of David Pierce. And even some of our reporter friends that were on are like, well, all the rumors around Austin are that David Pierce is out. They just hadn't announced it yet. Who knew that they were waiting? I guess, here's the thing, Elijah. And it doesn't matter that much now, so I don't want to dwell on this. I want to get to the other story that I just teased. But, it ended up being that Schloss was coaching a team on what was literally the last day of the season. So if they had been eliminated in the supers, do you just do it like the next day? I don't know. Like, if you'd known for a month, you had multiple contingencies in place, I suppose. But who knew that it was going to go? Although you had to have a pretty good inkling, because A&M pretty darn good.
Yeah.
That they could play for a national title. You don't know. It's hard, but they did.
They're the 3 overall seed.
Yeah, and then they push it.
And
then, I say they push it. Tennessee technically pushed it to Game 3. But, again,
they were 9 outs away.
Yeah, you couldn't play any more baseball. And so Texas went ahead and said on the last day of the year, all right, we're firing our guy.
Which did him a serious disservice.
Yeah.
Because that makes this a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
If they would have waited like 2 days after this, and we didn't have, because that question would never been asked.
Right.
If David Pierce didn't get fired on the day of Game 3.
I think this ends up being somewhat parallel, not quite, to what I was talking about with the Brian Kelly departure from Cincinnati to Notre Dame, and how the AD at Notre Dame, Jack Swarbrick, really was the bad guy there. At least there were 2 bad guys. Yeah. But Brian Kelly isn't going to be a guy, in my opinion, that pushes, for what's best, for what's right. And what's right back then would have been to allow him to coach the Cincinnati Bearcats in the Sugar Bowl.
The biggest game of the program's history they worked all year to achieve.
Especially when the adult leaders in the room, the grown-ups in the room, if you will, guys like Brian Kelly and Jack Swarbrick and many, many others around the country will often look us dead in the eye and say, oh, it's all about the kids. Well, no, that was all about you, period. That had nothing to do with the kids. In fact, it harmed the kids.
Yeah, way to use the kids as a shield.
Yeah. And in this case, I think the same kind of things are in play. Chris Del Conte had to wait until it was, in his mind, appropriate, until, you couldn't wait anymore. And it's all about Texas' ability to go recruit in the portal, which, again, closes next week. Now, that doesn't mean closes means that that's the last time you can enter. You can still get kids from it up until school starts.
Not locked in.
But it all became about Texas, which, again, is Chris Del Conte's job. And to be fair, that for Jack Swarbrick and Notre Dame, that's your job. I can go back to me complaining about Mike McGee turning down the Panthers, because I went back and forth with some folks on Twitter about that the other day when there was something that came up about that. And I was like, I get it. Mike McGee's job was to do what he thought was best for the University of South Carolina. I think it was a terrible decision. I don't like the way Chris Del Conte handled this for Texas. I don't like what Jack Swarbrick did 15 years ago when Brian Kelly left Cincinnati for Notre Dame, blah, blah, blah. But It happens, but this has become kind of ugly. And today, for what it's worth, if you missed it, Jim Schlossnagle did apologize to the young reporter for TexAgs.com for how he treated him, basically acknowledging that it could have been handled better. And while not acknowledging it directly, it's pretty obvious that the reason he was so mad wasn't because of the question, but because basically Schloss got caught with his hand in the cookie jar and didn't like it. That's what we know now.
Defensiveness.
Yeah, that's what we know. We didn't know that at the time. In fact, I came on these airwaves yesterday saying to you, I know sometimes people hate the media. Like, why do you have to ask that question? Well, because that's part of the job. Like it or not, that's part of the job. And I don't always like it.
Yeah.
And I'm the media. I'm in the media. I'm in a different branch of it. I'm not a beat reporter, but I understand the job, even if I don't like sometimes how the job is done, how the hot dog is made. I still like hot dogs. But now we know that Jim Schlossnagle and Chris Del Conte had this thing worked out. And maybe this kid was tipped off. Don't know that for sure.
Could have been.
But
even if he
it
wasn't,
certainly feels that way.
Even if he wasn't, Texas did overshadow Game 3 of the College World Series final by doing it that day. It was the biggest story in college baseball outside of the championship game. Surely, Schloss going into that game says, or going to the podium, has to know he's going to be asked that. And you got to be able to not just go completely off the cuff and be able to have something prepared.
I'll talk about it tomorrow. There's the answer. I'll talk about it tomorrow. My kids are in there hurting. I'll talk about it tomorrow. I'll talk about me tomorrow. Talk about me on Wednesday, on whatever. I'll talk about me.
I can't focus on two things at once, fellas. Right now, I haven't even processed the loss. But what happens next year, I have not even thought about.
But again,
I love it here and blah, 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 blah.
Good for Jim. He did apologize to the reporter, which I think was warranted.
Yes, certainly.
And everybody can move on, and he is now the coach at Texas. Now, again, this is a different kind of rat. Some people may say, oh, Jim Schlossnagle, he's just looking out for him. What a rat. I want to get into this, though. Pete Thamel, there are other things that we'll get into in the business of college athletics, but Pete Thamel reporting that today the Division I Council has adopted changes to infractions penalties. We'll get into some of this for you, but check this out. If you often hear, well, hey, we were helpful, and it helped mitigate some of the punishment, all right? Moving forward, this is directly from the D1 Council's vote today. Moving forward, schools and individuals. Remember that now. That's a separation. Schools and individuals can earn exemplary cooperation during an infractions case by doing any of the following. We need some kind of music here. I know, don't play any, but we need something. I don't like this, Elijah. Volunteering all pertinent school and personal information that is in the party's possession or should be reasonably expected to further the infractions process and its expectations. That's one. Identifying individuals to be interviewed of whom the enforcement staff might otherwise be unaware. Ugh, yuck. Expending substantial resources, financial, dedication of personnel, unfettered access to information to expedite the gathering of information. Sure, just come on in. Taking sufficient action to address violations through self-imposed penalties or proposing meaningful corrective measures. All right, that was good. That's fine. And finally, recognizing and bringing to the attention of the enforcement staff violations related to the investigation about which the enforcement staff might otherwise be unaware. Hey, by the way, y'all are looking into us for this, but my other team did this. Just wanted you to know.
Somewhere Bruce Pearl is pumped.
So basically, hey, if you'll rat somebody out, we'll look favorably upon you. I don't like this, man. I'm sorry. I don't like this.
Isn't this also just a reflection of the American legal system?
Well, yeah. I mean, in the sense that, when you sing, right? Like, if you sing, they're not going to send you to jail. Yeah, you turn state's evidence. Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
The difference, as I've said many times, is that in the NCAA's eyes, still, by and large, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent, which is obviously the direct opposite of the American legal system. I don't like this. I don't like this. And the way they say it, too, you can earn exemplary. This is like when a kid rats on another kid on the playground and goes and tells the teacher, and then the kid that ratted out a kid, like, you know, Billy pantsed me, or worse yet, you know, I'm gonna pull a Ralph Wiggum kind of thing here, like, Miss Hoover, you know, Bart pantsed Millhouse, and then Ralph gets the gold star from Miss Hoover
for being an informant.
And I know they're in different classes because Ms. Krabappel was Bart and Millhouse's teacher, but you see the point I'm making. I don't like this, man. It's not. That's none of that's the only one that's cool that I'm cool with. And I didn't even say it's cool. Taking sufficient action to address violation through self-imposed penalties or proposing meaningful corrective measures. Hey, we screwed up. We're willing to, you know, if it's something terrible, we'll fire that coach, or we'll take less official visits over the next whatever year.
Right.
You know, that's things like that. I'm good when you propose that on yourself. But when you're saying we'll give you a gold star if you're a rat,
you're getting rewarded.
I mean, I'm you find it. Now, again, I always come back around to the Whitney Hotel case at South Carolina. And the way that was found out was because a South Carolina player had been on what was, you know, an unallowable agent-paid, like, boat trip in Florida with a kid from the University of North Carolina. And then they started asking him questions about, like, and again, the questions that they asked that led up to the Gamecocks getting in trouble had nothing to do with what they were looking into. But they ask, again, they just start turning over rocks. And what they did was say, well, where do you live? Like, what does that have to do with going on this boat trip paid for by an agent of another kid? The answer is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But they asked, and he answered. And so when he answered, oh, well, I live at a hotel right near 5 Points, because they gave him a housing stipend back then. You could either live in the dorm or you had a housing stipend because you got, obviously, full, you know, tuition, room, and board as a full scholarship athlete. Oh, well, I mean, how's that work? And then they found out that, yeah, the guy that was running the Whitney Hotel was actually doing that, like, a little bit on the down low, and you can't do that, which, again, is, I get that it was a violation of the rules. But how they found out had nothing to do with what they were looking into the first time, which is still, to me,
also runs counter to the American legal system.
Yeah,
you are protected against illegal search and seizure.
That's shady.
Yeah.
But, again, the NCAA didn't care.
You think this is like a total overcorrection of people just straight up doing the Will Wade playbook and not cooperating?
Maybe, but I mean,
because that worked to a T.
Yeah,
that worked really, really well. That man is back coaching in college basketball and will have another Power 5 job very soon, Power 4 job very, very soon. And all he did was straight up refuse to cooperate. Everyone on that staff straight up refused to cooperate.
I mean,
caught red-handed, didn't cooperate, and basically got a fresh start.
I'm going to make you do your job, enforcement staff. And I look, if you, listen, I suppose if there is a rogue agent amongst you, you probably need to get rid of that, but I don't know that you do it like this. But I just, ugh.
It's lame. I can't even think of a counterpoint. It's lame.
I don't like it. So hopefully not a lot of schools take them up on this.
How much? Well, it also depends on what the reward is too.
Well, like, again, I told you already. You get a little sticker with a gold star
and a $5 coupon to the closest Subway.
I do like Subway. Something BMT, man.
That won't even get you a full foot long now.
Double meat BMT. That's where it's at.
Now you're talking.
Postgame show continues. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. The European Championships going on over in Germany, and Georgia, not the Bulldogs, is up on Portugal, one of the best teams on the planet.
SEC.
Yeah,
SEC.
Yeah. They do wear red and black. It is interesting.
You're trying to convince me that that's not the Georgia Bulldogs.
There's no barking. There's no UGA on the sideline.
Defense pitching a shutout.
But they're winning 2-0 right now. They've never been to a major tournament. Ever. This is it. And now they have a chance to beat mighty Portugal and advance into this thing. Portugal's fine. They're going to advance. Cristiano Ronaldo and company. And they're loaded. They are loaded. But this is
I don't even see Zaza Pachulia for Georgia. This
would be a big, big upset should it occur. So even if, again, Portugal played a lot of subs, but even Portugal's subs start for some of the best teams on the planet.
How do you think Greg Sankey celebrates this win?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Is he not in Knoxville right now? Still running around the Sun Sphere?
Probably shirtless.
My buddy Van Zell hit me. And since you hit me, I'm going to make you public here. He says, I'm a little surprised that you're in the no snitching camp or that you're anti-see something, say something. Dude, I'm no snitch. Like I said, if you've got somebody on a team as a staffer, like let's take Van Zell, let's take the Michigan situation, okay? A lot of those people probably knew that our buddy Wild Stallions was doing it wrong. And, that's why I said all along, like, you can't let that guy be what brings you down. It's one thing when your head coach violated the dead period in recruiting and basically a double dead period because it was the COVID dead period and then lied about it. So many fans wanted to make it, it's just a cheeseburger. I was like, well, what if it was a $75 ribeye at, your Ann Arbor equivalent of Hall's? Does that make it better or worse because it was just a cheeseburger? No, your head coach lied to the enforcement staff. You can't do that and expect that nothing's going to happen, right? But in this case, if they're already investigating me, I'm not going to be snitching. Again, if somebody is a rogue, first off, if you know that, my advice is that you take it to the athletic director or some such.
Compliance.
Yeah, find a way.
There are entire departments.
But I'm not volunteering it to the cops, if you will.
New rule. If there are incentives for snitching, you should have no punishment for lying to enforcement staff. We got to make it. We have to find the balance here. We got to find some type of competitive balance. Lying should be permissible.
And if you're just tuning in and like, what are they talking about? Today, the D1 Council approved some new things when it comes to enforcement, and it says schools and individuals can earn exemplary cooperation by volunteering certain information, identifying individuals that the enforcement staff might otherwise not be aware of. Again, there's your ratting out. But look, I know it's a fine and somewhat dangerous line to walk. Expending substantial resources to expedite the gathering of information. Helping them find all these things, but again, when the NCAA, y'all, here's the thing I don't like. And I mentioned the Gamecocks and the Whitney Hotel situation all those years ago. NCAA just started turning over rocks. Well, you turn over enough rocks, you're going to find something. But I'm not necessarily going to go out and volunteer because that's not what it is that you're looking for. What are you looking for? What are you accusing us of? And remember, too, the NCAA basically treats any school or individual that's caught up in something as guilty. That you're not innocent. That we'd love to apply our legal system to NCAA enforcement, but that's not how it works. It's the opposite. There's a lot of countries on this planet where you're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent, which is often really hard to do when you're in a windowless jail cell somewhere. I'm not saying the NCAA is doing that either, but
maybe they should.
Well,
they don't. The worst thing they could do is be in charge, because now If we could have rats, we can also have non-enforceable lying punishments.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh should be allowed to lie if he has a rat inside.
Well, but again, Wild Stallions couldn't be the guy to bring you down.
Level the playing.
We know where Wild Stallions
Level
is
it
these days? Is he around? Is he coaching anywhere?
He's probably chilling in one of the Great Lakes.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Like Napoleon in exile. He's away, but he's not that far away.
I got you. Abel was I, ere I saw Elba. Thank you very much. Let's get back on talking about a lot of things here, including coaching departures after the Jim Schlossnagle story. Rick is up next this afternoon. Hey, Rick.
Hey, guys. I guess I'm almost 60. I said that the other day when I called in.
Happy early birthday.
Well, thank you. Not looking forward to it, but okay. But anyway, I was thinking, and I was born on a tobacco farm, and you work and you do your thing, and I was so happy when I went to school because I knew I could leave the farm behind. But with especially the Texas A&M coach, when in our society did the loss of character become so prevalent that it is okay to bald-face lie? We're not talking about politics. When did it become okay to just bald-face lie? To me, it is scattered. He may be a great coach, but it is scouts. It is cowardness, because my daddy would have taught me to say, yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm leaving and going to Texas.
Mm.
And then just show your character instead of being some kind of little weasel. And you guys have done a terrific job of breaking it down over the years of different coaches. Character is apparently not a qualification for college or professional coach.
Yeah. Real quick, Rick, and thank you for that. Let me ask you, as the husband of the daughter of a tobacco farmer, where were you born?
Lake City.
Oh, okay. Well, my wife's from Greensea, so y'all know those all areas together. Because my father-in-law was a longtime tobacco auctioneer in addition to being a tobacco farmer. So,
that's what I wanted to be when I was little, is a tobacco auctioneer, because I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I got to go. I didn't know her then at all, but I got to go to a couple of tobacco auctions with some cousins that lived over that way, and I was like, I don't know what that man is doing, but it sounds cool.
Sounds magic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was 8 years old, going 25 feet, hanging tobacco in the rafters.
Oh yeah, she has pictures of that when she's yeah. No, my wife's got some she's got some fascinating tales from back in the day. Rick, thank you for the phone call. Yeah, buddy, have a good one. Again, Jim Schlossnagle, as I said, I'm not here to defend his comments the other day. I personally believe, like I said, that he walked right up to the line. I'm going to hesitate to call him a liar, but to Rick's point, it could have been, and to many other people's points that have hit us today, it could absolutely have been handled much better. And the question now becomes, why wasn't it? And I don't really have a good answer to that, other than that's just, I guess, Rick,
not
to answer your... Yeah.
It's not a priority.
It's not.
When you're getting millions thrown into your face, a significant increase in pay, an opportunity like Texas, what the kids feel and what's good for them is not what's at front of mind.
Right.
For better or for worse, and it's definitely for worse, they no longer become a priority. And the priority is securing that bag for yourself.
Yeah, and
it
then
blocks a lot of other things.
And to the extent that Chris Del Conte and Texas have a role in this, and they have a big one, it's about their immediate success and how you hit the ground running overall. Again, same kind of thing with Brian Kelly and leaving Cincinnati for Notre Dame, and how Jack Swarbrick of Notre Dame said, listen, you can have the job. I want you, but you got to take the job now. You got to leave your team now. You're not going to coach them in the Sugar Bowl. You're not going to lead those guys into the biggest game of their lives. You're going to come take my job, or you're not going to get my job. And that's unfortunate when they tell you, I'm doing it all for the kids. This is the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start here in Richland County with an accident on Clemson Road near Earth Road, causing some traffic backup, as well as one on Colonial Drive at Faro Road, one on 20 westbound over the Alpine Road exit. That is exit 76B. And on 77 southbound, just after the Killian Road exit, exit 22. In Lexington County, we have a couple to get to, one on Midway Road near Hope Ferry Road, one on Rouch Metz Road at Dutch Fork Road and Highway 76. And lastly, we have an accident on 20 eastbound. That's just after White Pond Road exit, exit 87.
Talking a lot of things today, most notably the big news around the SEC and the college baseball world. Jim Schlossnagle leaving Texas A&M for Texas. He was introduced officially in Austin today, apologizing to the young reporter that he berated on Monday night, and otherwise saying, hey, here we go, time to work with my guy CDC. He kept calling him a few times there. Chris Del Conte, the AD.
The Center for Disease Control?
at UT. And now the search is on for his replacement at A&M, and you feel like that person is going to make a lot of money. We may have 5 Southeastern Conference baseball coaches making more than $2 million by the time the next season rolls around, or by the time the new school year begins, really, when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will.
Or maybe, hear me out here, we could triple that number. Say Kentucky's willing to put Mingione over that line, too, because of A&M's offer.
Right.
And then A&M's basically going around the whole conference, asking coach by coach, and in response to them being asked to coerce some of those better coaches to stay, they get raises. This is a domino effect that we could maybe see that bad boy at the beginning of the year be 2 coaches making over $2 million. We could see that tripled going into 2025.
If I were them, I would hire Butch Thompson at Auburn. I would just go ahead and do that. I would, because he'll say yes, and you can pay him a lot, and he's got the resume you're looking for, and Auburn won't fight you. I don't know if Kentucky really will or not. I don't know. I don't know.
They seem to enjoy the ride to Omaha, and they're going to get those checks from playing in the College World Series.
And I think Auburn, again, he's taken them to a couple.
The next one goes up.
Yeah, but
more money involved.
Butch took them to a couple. And I think Auburn is still just kind of like, cool, yay, wins football.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I just, I mean, that's Auburn, and that's fine. I'm not judging. I'm not judging. I just think that's Auburn. It's like, okay. And Frank Thomas still on the team?
Casey Mize starting opening day next year?
Tim Hudson on the mound? Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
You could have given me, before I knew Tim Hudson played for Auburn, you could have given me 1,000 guesses to where he pitched before going to the major leagues.
Well, you would have only needed 200 and something. But.
Well, no, you could have given me 1,000. I still wouldn't have thought Auburn. That's the point. Yeah, you could have given me 1,000, and I would have guessed high schools that he went straight out of before Auburn.
Yeah, he hit like 400 too. He was a hitter as well as a really good pitcher. Let's get back on the phone lines. Brad is up next. Hey, Brad.
Hey, man. How's it going, y'all?
How are you?
Not bad, man. I love the show, first off. But I know we're kind of beating the dead horse, but you keep saying that he walked up to the line.
Mm-hmm.
My contention with that is the walking up to the line was him saying he took the job to never take another job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, he's not playing. Where he completely crosses the line was when he says that over and over, let this family, all that kind of stuff, and says, and in my mind, that has not changed. Well, he's already taken that other job, like you say, a month ago.
Right.
So his mind is completely changed. So he made that clear to that guy, like you said, berated the guy. So he walked up to the line, and then he crossed it, and then took his foot and wiped the line away.
Yeah, you may listen, and that's a nice baseball analogy. I don't know that I agree with you, but I see your point. You see a guy get into the batter's box, and the first thing he does is smile at the umpire as he completely kicks off the entire back line of chalk on the leadoff hitter on the every day. They're like, "How you doing, man?" And they're just sitting there just scraping all the all the chalk away so they can get as far back in the box as they want to. I get your point, and you're not alone, Brad, and because I've had a few people hit me and say, well, how are you saying it's not? And like I say, I'm not here to defend Jim Schlossnagle. I do not like how this went down. I've made that abundantly clear, but I think he was careful enough in how he said that. That's my opinion. I think he was careful enough to where he didn't say I'm staying here or I'm not going to Texas. That's the bigger thing is I'm not going to Texas. He didn't say that. But, and yes, how he phrased it, like that's why I say he walked right up to the line. You may even say he stepped a toe over the line.
I think you officially crossed it. I guess we said, and I still feel that way. I think that's the
Yeah, and I think that's how people. So. I think that's how people parse a statement like that. And maybe I'm just looking at it differently, and perhaps I'm choosing to look at it differently. I don't know. Some subconscious way I may be. I'm not here to defend him, but I feel like what that says is when I took this job initially, I figured it was going to be my last job, and how I looked at it then is still how I look at. I know this sounds weird. How I look at it now is still how I looked at it then, even though it's not what I'm doing. And
wouldn't be a clean delivery.
Yeah. I think he was trying to say, I believed at the time it was going to be my last job. Because remember, as Aaron Fitt told us, Jim Schlossnagle wanted the Texas job when it came open and when David Pierce got it, and Schloss was still at TCU and had already been to the World Series a couple of times then. So, like I say, Brad, I don't want to get too much into the semantics of it all. I never heard I'm not going to Texas. I heard a man say, I believed something once, and the way I believed it then, I can still feel in my mind. And then he went into and I poured my heart into this job, which, again, I'll give him.
Using past tense.
He did. And there's where you get into I'm done here kind of. Like I say, he got caught. I think this kid was tipped off. I genuinely do. You could have been tipped off earlier. Mm-hmm. And maybe he was sitting on it too, because from what we've been hearing, a lot of people were sitting on this out there for a while for whatever reasons. Good, bad, up, down. Doesn't matter to me. Maybe this kid, maybe a lot of people found out last week. Y'all know Schloss is leaving, right? But you don't want to say anything too publicly.
Or maybe you only got one source.
Yeah,
the rule of thumb is you need two people to tell you something.
And you're playing for a title. So you don't want to upset that apple cart too much. Mm-hmm. So you're, and again, this is not a judgment. This is some of the fan sites that are out there. Those guys are fans. Mm-hmm. Look, I get it. And so you're like, I want them to win. And there are some reporters out there who might get a story like that and love to blow it wide open. Mm-hmm. But once the season is over, and it was, you go ahead and ask the question. I mean, hell, I'm surprised that a Billy Liucci or a Brent Zwerneman or some of those dudes didn't ask it first.
Beat him to it.
So,
but you know what he should have done? This would have been, in hindsight, really funny. When he does the whole sassy, write that down.
Yeah, write that.
He should go, erase that. You write. I see you writing. Stop writing. Right. What I meant to say was, I still feel about this school then, like I do now. I still love the school, but, and then start getting really specific. Because he did say, I still feel that way. So he was like, oh, no, stop writing. What I meant to say was, I still feel that way about this school as I did, but not about my time here. Right. So let the record show I didn't lie.
Yeah, and that's why I say he was trying to be clever. He was trying to be crafty. He's also still a little. I think he was genuinely disappointed. He's a competitor, and he's got a bunch of dudes he's leading into the game, and he wants them to win. I've seen some A&M fans, by the way, going out there and going, oh, that's why he made some of those decisions that he made. I'm like, stop it. Come on, man. If you really think, here's what I'll do. I'll sabotage A&M's chance. If you wanted to sabotage the damn thing, you could have lost at home in the first round.
Yeah, and had plenty of time to take this Texas job.
Why isn't he starting any of the regular players? Why is the Batgirl all of a sudden on the team? Why is my dad out there right now? I mean, there's ways to sabotage. There's ways to throw it. You got to Game 3 of the finals, man.
The one thing that you get into coaching for and college coaching for, win a national title. You're there, man. You're there. Nah, I'm going to throw it so I can get to another job easier, so I can sabotage.
What do they have? They have like they have collies, right? Like as a mascot. Yeah. Why is I don't know what they call them.
Why is the dog?
Why is the dog pinch running?
You seen the wheels in that thing? He can fly.
But he doesn't know that he have to go to third. He's just going to keep on going to the wall.
Put some Chips Ahoy cookies there on each base.
Right, left. More phone calls coming up. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Wednesday afternoon. Coming up next hour, we'll have our headlines of the day. We'll revisit a little bit of our conversation with Aaron Fitt on the biggest topic of the afternoon, the Jim Schlossnagle story. Get into the drive around the SEC, which will include a look at the final athletic department standings for the 23-24 school year. A new number one this season. We'll get into that and more for you at next hour. John has been holding on for a few minutes. Appreciate his time. Hey, John, welcome in.
Hey, Jay, what's going on, man?
Doing good.
Couple of things real quick. I'm going to reminisce real quick. The guy a couple of minutes ago was talking about tobacco farming. I'll be 63 in August, born and raised in Marion, played for Bobby Ivy.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, and it was crazy because my granddad lived down in Long between Loris and North Myrtle and had a tobacco farm, and all of the grandkids would go down during the summer. I started about 8 years old driving the tractor, pulling the drag, graduated to cropping the tobacco, hanging it in the barn, and as I was thinking, our rival at Marion was Mullins, the auctioneers, and I kind of smiled and said, how many of you guys, and after I talk about Schnock, I want you to kind of talk about this a minute, but how many times have you gone back, speaking of Mullins and the auctioneers, and you probably know where I'm going with this, but it's my man Xavier Leggett, like the greatest interview in history.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I could listen to this guy all day long, and the funny thing is, I'll hit this real quick. I can remember whenever I got into high school, and at the first August, we'd get to leave the farm early and go back home because we had two-a-days, and you thought it was great until you had to wake up at 5 in the morning to go get killed by Coach Ivy and come back in the afternoon. But anyway, just doing a little reminiscing.
No, good stuff. Yeah, no, I love hearing my wife's tales. And again, she didn't do as much of that farm. She told me she had a lot of the business labor to do, but she did not have to do a lot of the farm labor growing up. But she's certainly quite aware. Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, man, great learning lessons. A lot of those things I learned from my granddad back then. Still with me, 63 years old, been an entrepreneur for about 40 years, but it all started in little old Marion. But real quick on Schnock, and I think that you might even agree with me here, and I certainly value your opinion, have for many years, but why didn't he – I mean, this is the easiest out in the world. When they bring it up, why not say, hey, guys, listen, I got a locker room full of kids back there that just lost the national championship, played their hearts out. And, man, I'm not going to make this about me. You know, I appreciate that you got to kind of cover things. Rumors are always out there. But reality is we're going to keep this about the kids tonight. I mean, how simple would that have been?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Amen. I don't like saying 1,000% or 1,000,000%, but in that case, yes, 1,000%, yes. That's the answer. There's no question, John, that's the answer. Is I'm not talking about me tonight. My kids are in the locker room hurting. We just lost a one-run game for the national title. I will talk about me when it's appropriate, and now's not it. And, yes, and as you said, if you want to be fair to a young reporter or an old reporter, I don't care if you got Harry Reasoner in there. I think he's dead now. But, Tony Kornheiser, or this 25-year-old kid from Texags. Appreciate the question. I know it's out there, and there's time to address it. Today's not it. But to do what he did, like I say, the only thing and again, this is not in his defense. He got caught with his hand in the cookie jar because the season was over. I really do believe this now. This guy at Texags and maybe some others out there knew, and he went ahead and asked because I think a lot of people probably did know. What did you say? You made the great point. The old Ben Franklin. 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead.
2 of them have to be gone.
Did Del Conte and Schloss keep this to themselves the entire time?
Impossible.
I just don't think they do because Del Conte, you gotta, and the agent, you gotta be. The wheels were so in motion because the plan all along was as soon as Jim is done, we're hiring him, and that's why it was not coincidental, but incidental at the same time that you make the announcement of David Pierce on what ends up being what can only be the last day of the regular season. There could not have been any more baseball. That was it. But you had to have the contract in place. He's got to be employed. He's got to go recruit. He's got to hire the staff. And, of course, he just took the whole staff with him. So they knew.
Yeah. Oh, they certainly knew.
And then their wives know, and their kids know, and their agents know, and the agent's wife knows.
Sometimes these coaches, they cannot help themselves.
You just can't.
When they get in that position, instead of deflecting, but they got to show you.
Yeah,
you're the one.
But yes,
you're the a-hole asking the question,
right.
not me for taking the job. It's you, 25-year-old reporter.
And at least he
Texas.
apologized. But yes, the answer to the question was, we'll talk about me tomorrow. Hour 3 coming up. Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union has been doing great work in the Midlands of South Carolina since the 1930s, and they would love for you to join their family as a member. And when you do, you can save on what you already do almost every day anyway. And that's, bank. When you have a checking account, savings account, you get a new credit card, you get a car loan, a student loan, a home equity line, a mortgage, a refinance, almost anything that has to do with you using your money. They can do it for you with lower rates and fewer fees. See, they return the earnings back to members as the form of lower rates and fewer fees. They're not paying shareholders. And they're telling you right now, too, especially if you have some equity in the home, now's a great time to get some low rates on a home equity line of credit. You can access that money over a 10-year draw. Use it when you need it. Pay the interest as you use it. Saves you a lot of money up front. Check them out online, palmettocitizens.org. Join my wife and me as members at Palmetto Citizens. You can achieve your potential.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start here in Richland County. We've got a few to get to. One on Alpine Road at I-20, another one on Bower Parkway at Piney Grove Road, one on Clemson Road near Earth Road. That one's been causing some issues for about an hour or so, as well as this one on Colonial Drive at Faro Road. We also have an accident on 20 westbound at Alpine Road near exit 76B, and then one on I-20 eastbound. That one's just before exit 87 in White Pond Road. We also have one to get to in Lexington County, two actually, one on Rouch Metz Road
at Dutch Fork Road and Highway 76. And lastly, one on Midway Road near Hope Ferry Road.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Wednesday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the postgame show. He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you for choosing to be with us on this very balmy day in Columbia, South Carolina, where I currently have a downtown temperature of 101 degrees. Yes, we crossed the line.
Topped out at 102 earlier.
We've been using that term a lot today, crossed the line. We made it.
Multiple lines, a multitude of lines, but yeah.
Feels like temperature 286.
Wow, mine has it as 500. Yeah, we are in an oven.
Doing it, man.
Congratulations.
Doing it, yeah.
We're cooking.
Love my hometown. It's good stuff. Glad you're here, Elijah.
This is foreign to me. This is disgusting. Foul. It's gotten this hot occasionally in Tennessee, but...
Dude, just, you understand, right? It's June. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I can understand. I ain't never going to like it.
That's all I'm going to tell you. Because it ain't August yet. That's why I hate the term fall camp in this town.
Oh, my God. Jim Nagy, the guy...
Fall down camp.
From heat exhaustion is probably more accurate.
Fall down camp, but it's August camp.
Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl. I did see a tweet from him yesterday where he quote tweeted the original top 10 list of EA Sports' top 10 or toughest places to play. Mm-hmm. And he said... he mentioned the heat in August in South Carolina and said that's one of the reasons why Williams-Brice has to be in the top 10. There's not a hotter stadium in the country.
What time is that Old Dominion game? 4? Ugh, yeah, really.
Only the hottest part of the day.
I'm not even, well, never mind. We'll talk about that when the time comes. In the meantime, just think, as a good friend of mine still says to this day, cool comes from within. So try to... Again, if I think cold thoughts, all I do is get hot.
Comfort is a state of mind.
Some Gamecock football to tell you about. Good news, bad news on the recruiting trail. First, the good news. Tayshawn Alston committed to South Carolina last night, and that's a few minutes after we left the air. He is a 6'4", 230-pound linebacker from Henderson, not Hendersonville, North Carolina. Chose the Gamecocks over Chapel Hill, Rutgers, and Virginia Tech.
Take that, Greg Schiano.
Yeah. South Carolina was in the lead most of the time, according to Chris and Wes. And Carolina picks him up. He is currently rated as a 3-star, but with a season of high school football left to play, find a way to up the ranking.
And if he rats on his school, he gets a gold star, so that would make him a 4-star.
Yeah, if y'all missed that story earlier, the NCAA basically said, hey, if you rat some people out when your school might be in trouble, we'll give you a gold star.
You got to get out of jail free.
That's basically what they said. Not quite, but it's basically what they said. To which I said, it's kind of like, a kid telling on another kid that he saw something on the playground, and he goes back and tells his teacher, and she rewards him for it. I'm like, no. That ain't how this works. Not at all. But anyway, that's another story for another time. So, again, Tayshawn Alston, linebacker, Henderson, North Carolina, committing to South Carolina last night. That's the good news. The bad news is that yesterday, 4-star quarterback for the 26 class, Landon Duckworth from Alabama, decommitted from South Carolina. He is currently rated, again, this is a rising junior. He is currently rated as the number 13 quarterback. He is also the number 9 recruit in the state of Alabama. The Gamecocks had 3, now 2. They've got a linebacker named Rodney Colton from Georgia, and they've got a kid from South Point, offensive lineman Anthony Baxter. So I'd be more pleased with a 25 commitment at a position of need than I would about a quarterback 2 years away, who's not going to play for you for 3 years. I get what recruiting's all about. I understand it. I'm really not here to judge too much, but okay. I mean, he's a rising junior. You could stay on him. Getting a commitment from those kids anyway, it just
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's just
it doesn't. Cool.
Yeah, it's neat if you get it.
Yeah,
and he's really good. I mean, but you got to know going in that there's probably a 1 in 5 chance that he's going to stick with you. I don't know what the odds are. I don't know.
A lot of time left. You know, he can attract the attention of other schools.
So there you go.
Flipping happens a lot.
Couple of recruiting notes for Gamecock football. The big story of the day as we continue our integrated media headlines, Jim Schlossnagle was officially introduced today as the University of Texas new baseball coach, this less than 48 hours after he led the rival A&M Aggies into the championship game of the College World Series. On Monday night, he said, "I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again, and that hasn't changed in my mind. It's unfair to talk about something like that. I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job, and I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job. I've given this job every single ounce I could possibly give it. So write that." That was in response to a question from a young reporter named Richard Zane, who writes for TexAgs. Today, in clearly realizing that he had made a giant PR mistake, Jim Schlossnagle apologized during his opening remarks at UT, saying in part, quote, "He asked a question that was an obvious question. I wish I could have answered that better, but in the moment, 30 minutes after the last pitch, all I could think about was our players, and I really wasn't in the mood to talk about myself for the future." End quote. You handled it very poorly. You berated a kid who was doing his job, and you knew all along you were taking the job. So you could have just, as we had a caller mention to us earlier, and I've had a few of you hit me on Twitter, you could have just said, "I'm not talking about me tonight," and you could have moved on. And especially considering the fact that this was a young reporter for a fan site, I don't know that you'd have gotten any pushback. I mean, like I said, it wasn't a Brent Zwerneman type, and I don't know all the guys that write, out there. Brent is the one. I mean, he and I know each other, and again, he's been doing it for a while. So, but there are others like Brent Zwerneman out there. It's a big state, after all. I mean, Brent writes for the Houston paper, but I'm sure there's somebody who writes and covers the A&M beat for the San Antonio paper, the Dallas paper, the Austin paper.
They all compete.
Yeah, They
all know there's alums in their cities.
Yeah. And you've got some national guys out there covering this as well. You could have handled it much, much better than you did, but you chose to go after the kid. But again, to his credit, he apologized. I don't know if that makes it go away, but he did it. So, but now
he can mark that off the list.
He said, "I want to thank Texas A&M. This wasn't obviously a move from one school to another school. This is a great rivalry, and I couldn't be more thankful and humbled by the support I got there at A&M, that we got there from some awesome players, staff, and administration. On some hands, this was a very easy decision because of my relationship with Chris and my past history and my belief in him and his wife, but it was obviously very hard. There's a lot of decisions in life that you don't get to choose the timing. You don't get to meet with your team as you would like, and for that, I am sorry." Again, this departure is messy and ugly and absolutely could have been handled better. The ironic twist in all of this is that, as we've mentioned a few times today, Elijah, but for those just tuning in, while you have an idea, if you're Chris Del Conte in Texas, and to some degree Jim Schlossnagle, that your team is very good and could play for a national title, you don't say, well, we will wait until the last day, the last literal day possible to do this. It just so happened that Texas A&M was pushed to the very last day of the baseball season, period. There could not have been another day. I know it's not the same, so I'm just making a little bit of an analogy here, but if you go back and remember when Mark Kingston was hired, South Carolina and Kevin O'Sullivan did have conversations And there was genuine interest from both sides. It just ended up that Kevin O'Sullivan went and played for and won the national title. And then you were just kind of like, oh, well, and then he wasn't going to leave UF at that point, you know? And if anybody else is the AD at Texas, then this isn't happening.
He's not even taking the call.
Yeah, this isn't happening. He's gonna get a raise and everything's fine. But it's clearly, you know, now we can see, and others have reported, this was in the works for about a month. In fact, one of the biggest reports out there and most credible reports says that there was basically the handshake deal between these two men right after the regular season. So before Hoover even. Which is kind of crazy to think about.
That is.
But they're buds. They're not just, they don't just know each other. I mean, you had the story yesterday. Jim Schlossnagle calls Chris Del Conte his best friend. Hard to compete with that.
Once I saw that, I think the connection became abundantly clear, and it just felt like it was going to happen.
He even said, we talk all the time, Schlossnagle did, of Del Conte, but Texas had a baseball coach. Yeah, okay, until they didn't.
And they knew they weren't going to have one for a while.
And as Aaron Fitt told us earlier, that was one of the worst kept secrets in college baseball. And you and I, we've talked about this during Carolina's coaching search. We got tipped off like, hey, one of the things that could just throw a wrench into some people's plans here is that Texas is going to fire David Pierce. And we heard that from very credible college baseball people.
So that was kind of the big thing is you're South Carolina. The timing is important because you're the biggest opening right now.
Right.
This is the time to cash in.
Until you realize out there in the, you know, in the whispers of the ether, like you might not be the biggest job.
If you keep diddle-daddling.
Yeah. You know, so, and then lo and behold, you find out, but it didn't matter. Because maybe while people knew David Pierce was going to be fired, now, again, as I sit here and go back in retrospect, Elijah, when we were told that Texas was going to come open, we didn't know that it really wasn't going to come open. That's just it. Mm-hmm. If this handshake deal was done at the end of the regular season, you and I found out about Texas, the week after Carolina lost in the regionals.
Well, we even heard things like, oh, they would really want Vitello.
Yeah.
They would really want Tony.
And maybe there was a few smoke screens out there just, again, to keep the focus off of Schloss and the Aggies because I think Schloss really did want to go win the national bleeping title.
He would never throw it.
Yeah, and
so
yes, again, if y'all missed it earlier, there were some tweets, and then I've seen the message board geniuses throw out a few things.
Hall of Fame day for message board geniuses.
That Schlossnagle was sabotaging the tournament run, and that's why he made some questionable decisions. Stop it. Beyond like feel badly that you would even entertain those thoughts, much less think that they're fact. That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
He took us to Omaha for the first time ever, the national.
Well, like you and I said, you want to
say
you can sabotage it. Hey guys, I don't want you to swing at anything. Coach, you serious? Yeah. Trust me, they're going to walk you every time.
I got intel.
You know, strike three. Coach, you said, trust me. You know,
Texas A&M has now sent out to the mound a walk-on who has not pitched a pitch in Division I baseball to start Game 3 of the College World Series.
Or like I said, you know, there's a kid. Why is my dad out there?
Out of all the dads you could pick, you didn't pick Jeff Kent? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Jeff's fine where he is.
Yeah. Or like I said, send out the dog, the mascot.
The dog mascot. Yeah. Why is the yell leader taking batting practice? Oh, he's hitting cleanup today.
Dog stealing second. Oh, wait. Yeah. Anyway.
Coach, what happened to all of our bats?
Finally, in our integrated media headlines, the Atlanta Braves are up on the St. Louis Cardinals 6-2 in a day-night doubleheader after rain yesterday in St. Louis. Actually, just going to the top of the ninth now. Atlanta up 6-2, Game 2 tonight at 7:15. Unfortunately, Braves fans, the Philadelphia Phillies beat the Detroit Tigers today 6-2. At some point, right? At some point, Philadelphia needs to go on some kind of cold snap.
They will come back to earth eventually.
Will it be this year?
Oh, there's so much time left. Yeah.
803-948-8327 is the phone number for my good friends at Integrated Media. Now is a great time to get ahead of the football rush. Get that home theater of your dreams ready to go, or enhance what you already have with the latest technology. Add to it. 803-948-8327. One room, whole house, indoors, outdoors. Wi-Fi that works everywhere. That's Integrated Media. More from Aaron Fitt on the baseball story coming up. All right, it's really hot today. I want you all to do me a favor, though. You're a football fan. I want you now to picture yourself on your back deck, patio, wherever you have back up behind the house, on a crisp fall afternoon. But you're saying there's something missing. What is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's an outdoor home theater system. That's what's missing. See, you're channeling ahead to football season. Now, as I just mentioned, is a great time to get ahead of the rush and call my very good friends at Integrated Media. Michael, Nathan, Dave, Evan, Philip, the whole crew, ready to help you out. 803-948-8327. Let them install an outdoor home theater built around a Samsung Terrace TV and the amazing Sonos outdoor speaker systems. This equipment is built to be outside all the time. Looks and sounds like the indoors. Man, you'll be loving it. Be the envy of your buddies. 803-948-8327. Integrated Media. All right, welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Let's jump right back in. We've been talking a lot today about the Jim Schlossnagle to Texas story, and got a few Gamecock baseball thoughts in here as well. Earlier today, our buddy Aaron Fitt of D1 Baseball, terrific national college baseball reporter, joined Elijah and me. We started him off. You'll hear the Maneri stuff in here as well, but we started him off with his take on what's happening out in Texas.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. I know I saw Kendall put that out there. And certainly, this was the worst kept secret in sports for a while. I mean, everyone knew David Pierce was out. That had been done for a while, and everyone had to sit on it, and which is kind of disgusting, frankly, that they at the very least, the Pierce thing we had been done for a week officially, and they held the announcement until the morning of Game 3 of the finals. When the guy that they're targeting is about to play.
Just a coincidence, right, Aaron? Just a coincidence.
What an odd coincidence. That part's just kind of sickening, honestly. It's just really, really just a middle finger to really the entire college sports establishment, not just to the Texas A&M people. And I get why they would want to stick their thumb in the eye of the A&M people, then make it classy. But then of course for Schlossnagle to come out in his press conference after the final game of the College World Series Finals, and act all indignant that someone dared to ask him about this rumor that everyone has been known has been floating out there for weeks, and for him to act like, how dare you ask me this? That's so selfish of you, and that's a tough look. And to then 16 hours later take the job that he was asked about. I mean, that's tough to swallow.
Yeah. When you look at it now, all right, A&M is open, and they were likely, from what a lot of people said, including Brent Zwerneman of the Houston Chronicle yesterday, they were doing what they could to keep him. That likely meant some form of raise. They're willing to spend, as we all know. So, what kind of coach do you feel A&M goes after now?
I mean, it's bottomless coffers, right? I mean, it's just, incredible resources at their disposal. And that's why, I feel like they probably could have kept Schlossnagle. It was just about the dollars, but he obviously had already made up his mind, and so it didn't come down to that. But, yeah, they're going to go big game hunting. I don't know what that means. Obviously, we knew they were interested in Bakich, but I think he's already pulled out of that, from what I understand. I think a name like a Brian O'Connor could be in play. We've heard maybe they're kicking the tires on a Link Jarrett or even a Scott Forbes. I don't know that those guys are going to leave their alma maters. They seem pretty happy where they are, but you never know. They're gonna really, I think, inquire on a lot of the biggest names that are out there, and I have a feeling they'll make a splash.
Certainly, yeah. I think there's probably going to be a pretty aggressive reaction to this right here. But in terms of surprising coach hires, we had one here. We haven't had John since Paul Maneri was hired at South Carolina. But do you find that in terms like the surprisement scale, what's a little higher? South Carolina luring Paul Maneri out of retirement, or Texas stealing their, soon-to-be biggest arch rival again's head coach?
Yeah, the Maneri thing was kind of out of left field, really, until we didn't hear that one until late, whereas the Schlossnagle thing, everyone knows the relationship between Schloss and Chris Del Conte, the AD at Texas. And, and certainly the last time Texas came open, I think Jim really wanted that job. I think I saw Kirk Bowles report this, and we had heard the same thing at the time. He wanted the Texas job, and he never got a call, So, this one did not really come out of left field, the Schlossnagle thing, whereas Coach Maneri coming back was a surprise, and I got the sense. I talked to him at the ABCA convention back in January, and it's great. Always great catching up with Coach Maneri. Wonderful man. Really warm presence about him. And we talked a lot about golf. We went through his entire itinerary of his Ireland golf trip and everything. And he seemed like he was enjoying being retired, but also we did get to a point in conversation where it kind of seemed like he felt like he still had some more left in the tank, and he was kind of missing being on the field. He loves that stuff. He's a baseball junkie for sure. I thought maybe he'd try to get back in at some point. I don't know, maybe be like a volunteer assistant type role, fourth assistant, if you will, like we've seen Ron Polk do over the years, and some of these other guys like that, Jack Leggett at Clemson. I thought maybe something like that. I didn't know that he was looking to dive right back all the way into the cauldron, as the head head coach at a program where there's a lot of pressure and expectations. That's interesting. And I will say this is a guy who had to live in that kind of environment for, a long time at LSU, and he handled it okay. I mean, at the end, I think it kind of ate him up a little bit, and I think it was probably bad for his health, all the stress that he had to deal with there and some of the off-field stuff. But for a long time, he proved that he can handle being in the fishbowl, and so from that respect, it's probably a pretty good fit.
Aaron, on that note, you've got Monty Lee and Terry Rooney, two guys who have long careers as head coaches, in addition to Terry's experiences directly with Paul and obviously Monty's ties to Ray and to the state of South Carolina. So from that last answer you gave about Coach Maneri and where he is today, do you see it as crucial that he has men like Monty and Terry on the staff relative to getting some dudes in their 30s?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you could have gone a lot of different directions here, right? I mean, you could get one of those, young up-and-coming recruiting rock stars, or like a Max Wiener. Everybody's kind of wanted to chase that prototype now, the young pitching coach with the brilliant mind that A&M had this year is now going to Texas. But, I think it makes sense in this case that he's got guys that he's comfortable with, stable guys that can handle a lot of day-to-day stuff. Obviously very respected baseball people, Monty Lee and Terry Rooney. And, they've accomplished a lot in their careers. They've both been head coaches. And, there's a lot to like about that staff, no question about it.
Ray Tanner and the Board of Trustees at South Carolina, Elijah and I have discussed this a few times, with this hire, doubled South Carolina's coaching budget like that. Now we're going to likely see, and I want your opinion on this too, but we're likely going to see at least 4 coaches in this conference next season making north of $2 million. All SEC versus, SEC versus SEC 2 years in a row for the title. Is there a way for this conference to continue to get better than it already is? The dollars are one thing, but what does that do to expectation and the sense of reality in the SEC?
It's a great way to phrase that, because you're right. I mean, it's only more competitive every year. Now you're adding Texas and Oklahoma, so it's like it's even more of a meat grinder now. I mean, I guess that means you probably get more spots in the postseason because there's more teams in the league, more good programs. But I mean, the change in the format in Hoover, we'll see how that kind of affects things a little bit when it comes to getting those at-large bids and host spots. Because we know that's always a factor. You get to the end of the year and it's how teams do in Hoover. Now you got a new format to contend with. But overall, I just think it's just amazing how much the SEC has separated itself from every other league, including the ACC. And the ACC had 4 teams in Omaha this year. They had a great year. But when it came down to it, the SEC is still the gold standard, and they went 5-0 against those ACC teams in the College World Series, which you can't hide from that if you're the ACC. It's just this is where the balance of power lies right now, and the resources are there. They kind of tell the story, right? I mean, you mentioned all the coaching salaries, certainly all the facilities stuff. A&M's getting ready to put another $80 million into their ballpark, and it sounds like Tennessee is going to spend $100 million on their. It's nuts. It's crazy where we're at, but it's just the SEC and then everybody else, and it's not that close.
That's our buddy Aaron Fitt from earlier today. The full interview will be up on the podcast. It probably already is up on the podcast page. If not, it'll be up soon.
Already is.
Look at that. 1075thegame.com, the app, which you can get at the App Store, Google Play Store, which I assume they still call it that. I don't know. Do they? Do you know?
Yeah, it's still a Google Play Store.
Okay. Wherever you get your apps, you can find ours.
Not a physical store. You cannot go up, park to it,
Sure.
walk in. It's all on your phone.
Gotcha. Easy enough. We appreciate Aaron, D1Baseball.com. Check out their YouTube channel for a lot of cool stuff. They did a great job during the tournament run. Always do. And again, Aaron Fitt, F-I-T-T, on the Twitters. All right, come back on the other side of the break. Drive around the SEC time, but it'll be a drive around college sports. The final 23-24 school year Learfield Cup standings, the best athletic departments in the country. Where do the Gamecocks and Tigers stack up amongst their conference brethren? That's coming on the other side of the postgame show.
Whole lot of talk about coaching changes here this afternoon, but there's one coaching change I will not be making, and that is with my coaches over at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. Paul Grant and Shaylin have done a fantastic job of coaching me to be able to establish better habits, better eating habits, better living habits, to not only lose the 15 pounds, and I actually ended up losing over 20, that I had in mind as a goal, but I surpassed it, and I can sustain it with my friends from Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. The coaching is just one part of it. The specialized plan is just another part of it. They do all of this without any pills, no injections, nothing crazy, a simple formalized plan for you and your lifestyle to help getting you back on track and in the shape you need to be. If you're interested in learning the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day and starting your own success story, give them a call. 803-824-4210. Again, 803-824-4210. Results may vary. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We have some good news, though. We did have an accident on 20 eastbound before White Pond Road near exit 87. That's since been cleared, so traffic's moving a lot better through there. We still have a few active ones, one on North Springs Road at Clemson Road. Traffic moving slowly through there, as well as two on Bower Parkway at Piney Grove Road and one on Alpine Road at I-20. In Lexington County, we only have one. That's over at Midway Road near Hope Ferry Road.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Wednesday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. Again, the big story in the Southeastern Conference, if you're just tuning in, made official earlier today with the announcement in Austin. Jim Schlossnagle leaves A&M to become the baseball coach at Texas. I haven't seen a whole lot out there, to be honest with you, on potential replacements at this point in time. We talked to Aaron Fitt just a little while ago, and a lot of you heard that. He says they'll go big game hunting at this point. Most of the A&M roster has entered the transfer portal today, so there's that. And I suppose a few of the suspects, if you will, that were potentially in line for the Texas job, or at least we would have thought.
Names that we threw out there.
Yeah, the names that everybody did, and you realize, oh, well, that was a completely futile exercise. It was going to be Schloss all along. Elijah did mention earlier that Georgia's Wes Johnson has signed an extension to remain at UGA through, you say, 2030?
2030.
That's a big deal. So he's probably off. So there's one of the Johnson boys. Again, Skip Johnson, Oklahoma, Wes Johnson, Georgia, Jay Johnson, LSU, all were mentioned as potential Texas candidates. Skip Johnson, maybe. Again, one of the things I learned about Skip Johnson, the Oklahoma head coach, his buyout's only $200,000. But I don't know if Oklahoma wants him to go. I mean, 2 years ago, they played for the national title. This year, they were a host again. They are coming into the best baseball conference in the country, and they're leaving a terrific baseball conference. So they care deeply about
that they
baseball.
won.
Yeah, that they won this past season. So I would imagine Oklahoma does what they need to do to hold on to him. This is just you and me talking, but I keep coming back around to it, and I just can't because I didn't even think about him until we talked live on the air, which is sometimes the beauty of the job and these kind of things, when we can just sit here and can do this. After all, it is talk radio. Is Nick Mingione, and I just wonder, that really might check a lot of the boxes, and I think you could get him, because his buyout's close to $3 million. Might have been something that Carolina couldn't do, but A&M can. Does A&M lure a Tom Walter from Wake Forest, a Chris Pollard from Duke? Yeah, even a Cliff Godwin. Some of the guys that, I don't know. Some of the guys that were on the Carolina list.
Able to throw out a lot of money.
Yeah. Boy, I mean, if you told Tom Walter he'd have 10 times what he has to work with now, might he be intrigued? I don't know. But there's not a whole lot out there yet that I've seen in terms of, big time candidates. But I keep coming back to Nick Mingione. Like that's where I would go first, I think. I would really, because he's in your conference. And I don't know. We just mentioned a couple of guys that aren't, like Walter and Pollard, even Brian O'Connor. Terrific baseball coaches. And I'm not saying, I wouldn't touch that. But might you start within the conference framework first? I don't think you're going to lure Sully away. You're not getting Vitello. I don't think you're getting Jay Johnson. I don't know that you, with all due respect, they've both won the World Series, but I don't know if you're going after Mike Bianco or Chris Lemonis right now.
Yeah, they're not. They're on the warm seats in their schools, not hot.
So all of a sudden, it just kind of laser focuses in on Nick Mingione, and could you get him to leave Lexington? I think you could. I would start there. I really do think I would start there. But I don't know what his best recruiting footprint is. I mean, you can always hire a recruiter and hire a local.
Certainly.
There's ways.
But in terms of wrestling him out of the thumb of the school athletic department, I think you made a pretty good point that Auburn might be the best bet in terms of taking somebody's coach without much resistance.
Yeah, Butch Thompson, excuse me. I don't think Auburn would really fight you. If A&M came calling and said, Butch, here's 1-8, and here's the budget, and oh, by the way, here's the ballpark, and here's
a bunch of Bluebell ice cream.
Yeah, right. And we're in Texas, where we got a lot of athletes. Come on down. So I would, one of those two guys feels like like they might be that's where I would go. But I would start with Minjiang, just because I think there might be something about that hire that gives you a little bit more pop. You know, Auburn. Why weren't you very good this year? You just went to the World Series 2 years ago. What
Fan
happened?
base wouldn't be as excited for Thompson.
No, I don't
Auburn
think
was so bad. They weren't just
it's
like,
weird,
not
man.
good. They were bad.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how they got bad. And yet he's been to 2 World Series. So I don't know. We'll see. There you go. The Learfield Cup. It's been named a few things. It used to be the Sears Cup back when Sears was a store. Remember Sears? You probably don't, do you? Barely?
I do remember Sears.
Barely?
Barely, yeah.
Hell, even
Department
when,
stores in general.
Even before Sears closed, I can't think of the last time I went to a Sears. But Sears used to be a great place, man.
I think the last time I was at a Sears, I might have been 7 years old. West Town Mall.
You could get like NFL, like betting. Like I had the NFL betting set from Sears. It was awesome. Although I always wanted to make sure I could like position like a pillow so that the Bronco logo was always there perfectly for me.
Was always facing you.
Yeah. All kinds of stuff, man. NFL pajamas when I was a little kid.
Oh, me and my brother we had twin beds with the NFL betting.
Yeah, that stuff was great.
Matching betting.
I don't know if it was exclusive to Sears. It feels like it was when I was a little kid. I'm not sure. But anyway, the Learfield Cup is what it's called now before we go down too far a road on elementary school age betting.
That road is long.
Oh, it was cool, man. I mean, yeah, there were some cool betting products back in the day. Superheroes and football and such. No doubt. But the Learfield Cup standings are out. And Texas is your winner. The best athletic department in the country. By the way, the Learfield Cup,
24 hours.
Basically, it takes all 3, sport seasons, fall, winter, spring, assigns a point value to each sport and how you finished. And obviously, the better you did, the more points you get. And the winner is, gets a nice trophy.
The better. Yeah, I see what you did there.
Didn't think about that. But Stanford is always up there. They're number 2 this year.
Nerds.
Hey, it works. Tennessee is 3rd. So Tennessee technically wins the Southeastern Conference Award for the best athletics department this year.
And Texas gets to come in.
That's right.
Lovely.
That's right. Florida 4th, Virginia 5th, A&M 6, North Carolina 7, Michigan 8, Alabama 9, and UCLA is number 10. South Carolina finished 30th in the standings, and this is all of D1, so there's a lot of schools. And right behind South Carolina at number 31, Clemson.
Oh.
So even if it's one spot, Gamecock fans, yeah, own it. South Carolina has a better overall athletics department than Clemson because the facts of the Learfield Cup prove it.
Can't take that away from them.
Nope, and can't take this away either. You know who's ahead of both of them in number 29? Harvard. The Harvard Crimson. I don't know. I mean,
big deal.
That is a big deal,
and
man.
Jeremy Lin ain't walking through that door.
Not anymore. Other SEC teams, let's see, or schools, I should say, because it's not teams, it's schools. LSU 13, Georgia 16, Arkansas 18. Then you come all the way down to Carolina at 30. Kentucky 32, Auburn 33, Mississippi 38, Missouri 55, Vandy 57, and Mississippi State is bringing up the rear at 60. So at least all 14 SEC schools inside the top 60 of the Learfield Cup standings. But again, Gamecock fans, you can own it. You are better than Clemson in the athletic school year. Congratulations.
Hang the banner.
That's right.
I wanted it in CLA and Willie B.
Everywhere.
By tomorrow.
Every venue.
We need banners all over the place now.
Every venue.
Put it on a flag and put it on top of the State House.
There it is. That's the drive around the SEC brought to you by Herndon Chevy.
I'll get David Ayer to put it up there himself. Not me.
Your hometown Chevy dealer. Stop by the showroom, see why Herndon makes you smile. And while you're there, you can save $20,000 on a new Silverado. Together, let's drive. We'll churn up the NBA EBPI and have Elijah tell us who goes number 1 tonight in the NBA draft. This is the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show on this Wednesday, 11 minutes in front of 6 o'clock. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Elijah's going to update the poll question before he gives us who to bet on in terms of the NBA draft. First round tonight. I have my thoughts on how the second round should run, too. I'll tell you that in a minute. Speaking of basketball, didn't get to this earlier. Dawn Staley's team will be participating in the Fort Myers tip-off November 28, 29, and 30th. On their side of the group, I'm not sure how this works, like in terms of determining a champion, but in Carolina's group, there will be Iowa State, Purdue, and wait for it, Middle Tennessee State University.
That's your Blue Raiders tournament team.
That's right.
Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders.
And they're representing your home area on the other side of the bracket or whatever. Again, I'm not sure exactly how this works. Michigan, Virginia Tech, Davidson, and Belmont.
How about that?
So Middle Tennessee is represented in Fort Myers. And Gamecock fans, that might not be a bad time to make your way down to the southern Gulf Coast.
Fighting Elijah Campbell's at Middle Tennessee, and my fighting Hannah Garrett's. That is my sister, who did get her law degree at Belmont.
Nice.
So we're well represented.
All right.
Sorry, Don. Got to play against the Blue Raiders.
And I
pity
think,
you.
Is that, hang on a second, is that Thanksgiving weekend?
I think so. Sounds about right.
Let's find out real fast.
Late November?
You give us the poll question. I'll pull up the calendar.
Okay, you pull that up. And the poll question today, with Jim Schlossnagel's exit from Texas A&M, is the worst in college sports history. Comment other nominations below. Yes or no are the two options. And yes at 70.4%, no at 29.6%. We have 226 votes, so a pretty good sample size here. Some of the nominations for worst coaching exit in the history of college sports. Lane Kiffin got 3 of them, so plenty. Ed Cooley leaving Providence. Bobby Petrino, Bobby Cremins, and that is it.
Remind me again of the Ed Cooley departure.
No, I don't think it was anything like controversial because it was. I think he just left that program at a high for a rival.
Oh, all right. Yeah, Petrino again. Petrino leaving the Falcons was the lamest thing ever. The lamest thing Bobby Petrino ever did was take the plane ride from Louisville down to Auburn. That was there's this, for a dude who's done a bunch of snaky things, that's probably still the snakiest. That guy, man.
He's the worst.
Wow.
And Tommy Tuberville has a couple where one, he mentioned the only way he's leaving Ole Miss is in a pine box. Spoiler alert, he did not leave in a pine box. He left with a pulse.
What's he doing now? Don't ask him.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably not a very important job. And then he also said an Irish goodbye to a table full of potential recruits at Texas Tech so he can go take the Cincinnati job.
I don't care how people vote, but I do know that Tommy Tuberville said we have 3 branches of government in Washington, the House, the Senate, and the President. I was like, oh, God. Y'all really elected him, didn't you?
Oh, man.
NBA draft.
He owes a lot to Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams.
NBA draft first round is tonight. Do I know anybody that's going to be drafted in the first 5 picks?
I think Reed Shepherd might get taken first 5 picks.
Really?
Reed Shepherd, yeah.
Okay.
He might have one of the best offensive upsides because he is the best shooter in this draft.
I feel like you could blindfold him and he's still going to make like 40% of his shots.
And the fact that he only shot 4 per game is a reason that John Calipari should have been fired and not allowed to leave Kentucky on his own will. But Reed Shepherd, I think, will be taken in the top 5. Donovan Clingan from Connecticut.
Yeah.
Potentially top 5. Stephon Castle from UConn, the freshman guard, 6'6" guy. Wasn't one of the better shooters, but was one of the better facilitators. He'll probably go 6'7", maybe, in that range. But by all accounts, based off betting markets and things that I've just seen online and based on who's worked out with who, French teenager Zachary Rissochet, I've been listening to that several times this afternoon to get that right. Zachary Rissochet is probably going to be the number 1 pick. 18, 19-year-old, played in the French league, not particularly the strongest basketball league in the world. Didn't put up eye-popping numbers or impressive numbers, and kind of has a jump shooting question mark, but they love his upside. I don't see it. I'm very meh on it.
Is it just like, well, Wembanyama last year, so the French have to know what they're doing now?
He's not even the best French teenager in the draft.
Wow.
Because Alex Sarr, who is a 7-footer, Rissa Shea is 6'8". Alex Sarr is 7'1". 7 foot, 7'1", give or take. And he, has some defensive upside. Can't do much other than
Where's
that.
he been playing?
He is French, but he has been playing in Australia.
Okay.
Which is a better league. The NBL is a pretty good international league.
What do you think the second best one is? Spain?
Definitely, by far.
Yeah.
So when Luka Doncic, as a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old, wins the MVP of that league, it should be a no-brainer that you keep him over Trae Young. But not if you're the Atlanta Hawks.
Should I watch the NBA draft tonight?
Why not?
Or Copa America or the Braves?
Ooh. Copa America.
I think I'll watch the Copa.
Copa's had some good stuff.
We'll do it again tomorrow. I appreciate y'all being with us. Thanks to Aaron Fitt. See ya.